Prince William and Princess Anne are now at the center of an extraordinary royal health story spreading online. It claims that Prince Louis has been diagnosed with a rare juvenile neurological disorder after a frightening fall inside Windsor exposed problems with his balance, movement, and the strength in one hand. The same account describes a private medical report, an emotional argument between William and Catherine over whether the diagnosis should be revealed, confidential details allegedly escaping through palace staff, and Princess Anne stepping in to remove royal expectations from Louis's childhood. If true, it would be one of the most serious health disclosures involving a royal child in modern memory. William would be choosing between controlling the narrative and protecting his son from becoming a diagnosis. Catherine would fear that one statement could follow Louis for life, while Anne would be placing a vulnerable child ahead of royal visibility and duty. But there is one problem powerful enough to change the entire story. No authenticated medical report has been published. No official statement confirms the diagnosis. No named doctor has verified the condition. No public record confirms the alleged fall, the weak grip, the palace leak, the private argument, or the claim that Princess Anne rewrote the rules governing Prince Louis's future. So what are we actually watching unfold? Is Kensington Palace remaining silent because a child's medical life is nobody else's property? Or has an emotionally devastating story been built from details that sound precise enough to feel true, even though the evidence has never appeared? Before the evidence is examined, take a position. Comment Palace should respond if William and Catherine must publicly address a viral medical claim involving their son. Comment protect his privacy if responding would reward speculation and turn a child into public property. Because the real controversy is not only whether Prince Louis is ill, it is whether the palace can protect him without allowing silence to be treated as confirmation. The account begins with a fear every parent understands. Louis is said to have been tired, unsteady, and occasionally unable to control his hands. Catherine notices but does not want to frighten him. William holds on to the least alarming explanation because hope is easier than uncertainty. Then, the story introduces the fall. During a private rehearsal at Windsor, Louis supposedly loses his balance, falls without an obstacle in his path, and struggles to make his legs respond. William kneels beside him and asks him to squeeze both hands. One hand responds normally, the other barely moves. Staff freeze. Catherine orders the room cleared. Anne closes the doors and demands that unofficial references to the incident be removed from an internal schedule before fear becomes gossip. It is cinematic and emotionally precise. William, the terrified father, Catherine, the protective mother, Anne, the decisive guardian, and Louis, the frightened child. That precision is also the first warning. Real medical emergencies do not normally arrive online with perfectly arranged dialogue, complete emotional reactions, internal scheduling decisions, and detailed descriptions of what each person's face supposedly revealed. The more private a moment is, the more important the source becomes. Yet the story offers no identifiable witness, no document, no photograph, no official statement, and no explanation of how private medical details involving a child became available to the narrator. The account then says specialists confirmed a serious but manageable disorder requiring long-term treatment, fewer appearances, and changes to Louis's routine. William supposedly wanted to speak before rumors took control. Catherine feared her son would be reduced to a palace statement. Anne warned that the information was already moving beyond the family. That conflict is believable because it reflects a genuine dilemma. Silence can protect privacy, but it also creates a vacuum. Every absence can become evidence, and every childhood stumble can be slowed down and presented as a symptom. A response may legitimize the rumor, no response may be treated as confirmation. William and Catherine have already shown that they place strong value on medical privacy. When Kensington Palace announced Catherine's planned abdominal surgery in January 2024, the statement said she wished to maintain normality for her children and keep personal medical information private. Updates would be provided only when significant new information existed. That was a real statement, issued through an identifiable official channel with a date, limited facts, and clear boundaries. Buckingham Palace followed a similarly controlled approach when King Charles's cancer was announced in February 2024. The palace confirmed that tests had identified a form of cancer, explained that treatment had begun, and stated that public-facing duties would be postponed while state business continued. It did not disclose every clinical detail, but it did publish a direct statement that could be checked against an official record. That comparison matters, because the Prince Louis story describes a major medical announcement without producing the announcement itself. There is no official William and Anne briefing available to examine. There is no palace transcript in which William's voice breaks over the phrase, "our youngest son." There is no verified document announcing long-term treatment, reduced appearances, or a change in Louis's education. There is no public medical statement carrying the name of Kensington Palace or Royal Communications. The viral account tries to solve that missing evidence by making secrecy part of the drama. It claims staff were silenced, schedules were rewritten, private files were guarded, and only a tightly controlled group knew the truth. But a claim cannot become stronger simply because the evidence is said to be hidden. Otherwise, the absence of proof becomes proof of the cover-up, and the story can never be tested or disproved. This is where the palace faces an unfair but unavoidable problem. Prince Louis is not a working adult royal. He is a child. His public role is limited to occasional family and ceremonial appearances. He does not make policy, sign state documents, or carry constitutional responsibility. The public may be curious about him, but curiosity does not create an automatic right to his medical information. At the same time, his identity makes complete privacy difficult. He is the son of the Prince and Princess of Wales, and fourth in line to the throne. A change in his public appearances will attract attention even when the explanation is ordinary. That visibility allows a creator to take a believable family concern and expand it into a full palace drama. The story gives Princess Anne a particularly powerful role. She supposedly discovers that earlier episodes were dismissed, orders names and dates collected, challenges officials, rewrites schedules, and forces the monarchy to place treatment above tradition. Later, she allegedly becomes the person Louis trusts enough to confess that he fears disappointing his father. Anne is a convincing character for that role because the public sees her as experienced, disciplined, direct, and deeply committed to duty. But reputation is not evidence. There is no verified record showing that she received authority over Louis's medical care, his schooling, his childhood appearances, or Kensington Palace communications. An aunt may provide private family support, but she cannot independently announce a diagnosis or create binding household policy for William and Catherine's child. The emotional center arrives when Louis supposedly says he fears William will stop being proud of him. Anne tells him courage means asking for help, and William promises Louis will never have to earn his place. The lines are unforgettable, but they are private dialogue attributed to a child without a verifiable source. That should make viewers pause. A story can promote compassion while still violating the privacy it claims to defend. It can say a child must not be reduced to a diagnosis while using an alleged diagnosis, an alleged fall, and alleged private fears as entertainment. The contradiction is impossible to ignore. And now the public record enters the story. The royal family's official profile for Prince Louis identifies him as the third child of William and Catherine, and fourth in line to the throne. It contains biographical information and official family material, but no announcement of the neurological condition described in the viral account. The official court circular records Louis attending the King's birthday parade with Catherine, George, and Charlotte on June 13, 2026. That appearance proves nothing about his private health. But it matters because the viral account describes major ceremonial restrictions without identifying a corresponding announcement or confirmed change. This is the point where the evidence forces a clear distinction. It is possible for any child, including a royal child, to have private health information that the public does not know. It is not possible to responsibly name a rare neurological disorder, describe symptoms, recount a collapse, quote doctors and parents, and present policy changes as established fact without evidence. The strongest version of this story is therefore not that the palace has confirmed a diagnosis. It is that the palace has not responded to a diagnosis being claimed by others. That creates the real conflict. One side will argue that William and Catherine should issue a short denial, not a medical report, not a staged photograph, just a sentence making clear that no such announcement has been made and that stories claiming otherwise should not be treated as fact. Supporters of that approach will say silence allows misinformation to travel farther and invites strangers to analyze every movement Louis makes in public. The other side will argue that the palace should never begin answering invented medical claims about a child. The moment it denies one diagnosis, audiences may demand denials of the next. Every rumor would become a question the family is expected to answer. Silence would no longer be a boundary. It would become a suspicious act requiring explanation. Both arguments contain risk. A denial may protect Louis in the short term, but establish a dangerous precedent. No response may protect the principle of privacy while allowing millions of viewers to encounter the diagnosis without ever hearing that it is unsupported. The palace's past communication suggests it prefers limited statements when genuine information must be shared. The royal household maintains a press release archive and an official record of engagements. Those systems do not eliminate rumors, but they allow the public to check whether a dramatic claim was actually announced. At the time of this script, those channels contain no William and Anne confirmation. That does not prove the palace reveals everything. It proves the claim should not be called an official announcement when no official announcement can be found. There is also a larger question about the way audiences consume royal stories. Why does this particular narrative feel so believable? Because it combines several public assumptions people already hold. William is seen as a protective father preparing for a future reign. Catherine is seen as fiercely protective of her children. Anne is seen as the family's practical problem solver. The palace is seen as secretive. Royal children are seen as living under extraordinary pressure. The story asks viewers to combine familiar public reputations into a private event no one can verify. That is how emotional misinformation often succeeds. It builds fiction from real impressions. Its medical language is equally strategic. Rare juvenile neurological disorder sounds specific without naming a condition. Long-term treatment creates fear, while manageable with early intervention offers hope. But no physician, hospital, test, or report is identified. Balance problems and a weak grip sound medically significant, yet anonymous narration cannot diagnose a child. The allegation can be examined, the evidence tested, and the privacy question debated. But the diagnosis must remain unverified unless the family or an authorized representative confirms it. That boundary is the difference between commentary and medical misinformation. The most troubling part may be the way a child's imagined fear is used to create certainty. Viewers are told what Louis hid, what he asked Anne, and what William and Catherine said behind closed doors. Those details create intimacy without evidence. Royal children deserve particular caution because they cannot meaningfully respond to global speculation. A child depends on adults and institutions to protect boundaries he did not choose. William and Catherine may eventually decide that a rumor has become too large to ignore. They may also decide that the safest response is no response. Neither decision would confirm the diagnosis. The public should not force them into proving a negative by producing private medical information. At the same time, platforms and creators should not hide behind the word rumor after presenting invented scenes with the confidence and detail of reporting. The final verdict is uncomfortable but clear. There is no publicly verified evidence of the claimed diagnosis, Windsor fall, William and Anne announcement, palace leak, or new policy created by Anne for royal children. The official record shows that Louis remains publicly identified as William and Catherine's youngest child and fourth in line to the throne. It also records his attendance at the King's birthday parade in June 2026. Those facts do not reveal his private medical condition. They do show why a dramatic diagnosis and institutional transformation should not be declared without proof. But the story has exposed a real weakness in modern royal communication. A palace statement can protect privacy, but silence can be filled by creators who understand that emotion travels faster than verification. A child can become the center of a global health story without saying a word. And once viewers feel protective, frightened, or angry, correcting the record becomes harder because the emotional version feels more meaningful than the factual one. So the question is now yours. Should Kensington Palace issue a direct denial whenever a major medical claim about a royal child goes viral? Or should William and Catherine refuse to let strangers decide when they must discuss their children's health? Comment Palace should respond or protect his privacy, and explain where you believe the line should be drawn. Because the real test is not whether the monarchy can control every rumor, it is whether the public can look at a heartbreaking story, feel the emotion it was designed to create, and still ask the one question that protects truth and protects a child. Where is the evidence?